Hallo und willkommen. Ich bin Meister Lenze and you're watching Get Germanized Italian versus German Culture.
I'm on board. What should I do?
Ich weiß.
Before we get started with today's video, here is a very exclusive offer and announcement from our sponsor Lingoda for all the members of the German fam, for the Get Germanized community. So listen closely and let's go. Whether you want to learn German for work or for travel, or if you just want to learn a new language for the sake of learning a new language, it doesn't really matter. It's never been this easy to get started. Lingoda's exclusive offer is that you get 3 German lessons for free if you choose a language learning package ranging from 10 to 30 classes a month. For those of you who don't know what Lingoda is all about, here's a short summary. Lingoda is an online language school where students can learn English, Spanish, French, German, business English from pretty much anywhere in the world in virtual classrooms with native speaking teachers. Think of it as a traditional school just online. You can basically do anything you would in a traditional classroom setting, just online and easier. You can speak, listen and interact with your fellow students. On top of that, you have native speaking teachers, which you do not always have access to in a normal school. The best thing is classes are available pretty much all the time, weekends and evenings as well, and that means you do not need to interrupt your busy schedule to go to school and learn a new language, because with Lingoda you get the language school on the go. With this you're more flexible, and that means more motivation as well. When you complete a sufficient number of courses, that's about 30 to 40 hours of courses, then you get a CEFR certificate, which attests to your skill and your prowess in the language chosen by you. And to be a bit more precise, this of course shows your language comprehension ranging from A1 to C2. So sign up for a free 7-day trial today. What's stopping you? Click on the link in the video description. And if something's stopping you, here's some more reasons why you should. Well, for one, you will learn fast with qualified native speaking teachers, like I've said before, in small group classes or even private classes. You can choose from over 1,000 classes. That means you can basically find anything you need for your, private goals or your professional goals. There's a structured curriculum with topical classes that are being refreshed daily. That means you will learn to speak like a native fast, because when it's topical, it's interesting. That means more motivation, faster learning. It's just easy like that. The teacher will of course give you instant feedback and try to help you learn and achieve your goals as best as possible. That means new career opportunities and even the chance to live and work in a different country in which the language you're learning is spoken, for example, German for Germany. Maybe there's even the chance of a promotion and a salary raise, who knows? Again, click the link in the video description right now to get the chance for 3 free German classes if you sign up for the learning packages. So you see, great opportunity, great chance to learn languages, including German. Not only, but I mean, I preferred it if you wanted to learn German, of course, but you can learn whatever you want with Lingoda. Click on the link in the video description and I'd say let's get started with the video. In a former video, I have attempted to speak Italian and apparently I didn't completely butcher it. And so I thought, well, also since I'm planning to go to Italy, maybe probably this year for the first time in my life, it is time to, look for information on how Italian culture, how Italians are different from Germans, from Germany, or from the culture in Germany. And I would have loved to do this with an Italian by my side, but since I do not know any that could have attempted to be here in time, the internet research will have to do, and that's what I'm going to present to you today. So take everything that I'm going to say with a grain of salt, and maybe, just maybe, if you have an experience of your own, let me know in the comments below. That would be fantastic, actually. And maybe you can correct some things or add to some things that we're talking about today. But what I'm going to do basically is I'm going to go through experiences from other people and compare it to what I know about Germany, how things are handled here, and maybe what I'm thinking about what I'm reading at the same time. So you could call this a reaction video, I suppose. But I'd say let's get started right away. Lasst uns anfangen. So, Thomas L. Johnson, that lived in Germany, has said, as someone who has lived in both countries, studied in Germany, took sabbaticals in Italy, I am sometimes amazed that both of these very different countries can coexist in something like the EU and the Eurozone, as they seem to present almost alternative approaches to virtually every aspect of life. Okay, so maybe I should start off with my stereotypes that are in my head before we go through this. Italians, more relaxed, very happy people, make good food, know how to enjoy life, while Germans, stereotypically serious, more serious at least, are very information-based creatures, don't like to chit-chat about unnecessary stuff. Well, you know German stereotypes, right? People who watch my channel here are aware of those things. Not always true, same with Italians, I assume, that not all of them are really relaxed and not necessarily so relaxed that they don't get anything done, because that is a stereotype, I suppose, as well among Germans. And that is also why many Italians think that Germans have a superiority complex. And maybe we do a little bit, I don't know. Let's go on reading. While Germans are obsessed with engineering, yeah, pretty much true. Italians are obsessed with style and styling. The best car in the world will be one engineered in Stuttgart and designed in Turin. And one would not find the opposite to be true. I can actually sign that right away. So many of my friends are actually engineers, and engineering is a very, well, a respected occupation, as I mentioned in the previous video as well. And also another colleague of mine, actually, the Dunkle Parabelritter, has recently said that in Italy, in Milan to be precise, they care a lot about how they present themselves, especially on the outside. Their fashion is really important to them, and I don't think in Germany that is true as much. I mean, many people say Germans don't really have a fashion sense at all, because it's very practical clothing, often very, as you can see, very one-colored, often very like monotone in comparison to other countries at least. Not saying there's no Germans with a sense of style at all. It's not true, of course, but in Italy it's much more present, I think. In Germany you will find, well, in clubs, for example, girls that just dress in normal jeans and t-shirts or just normal tops, nothing too fancy, not too much makeup on. It's just more relaxed in that sense, like people, I don't know, they don't seem to care as much sometimes. There are, of course, clubs here, for example, in which, well, there is a dress code where you have to wear a certain attire, otherwise you will not be let in, but those are more the rare occasions, I would almost say. Next up, the Germans are particular about time and punctuality. Italians are not polychronic like Mexicans, but they are less driven by schedules than by casualness vis-a-vis time. Traditionally, German trains run on time. Italian trains run on tracks and occasionally on time. Well, I am looking forward to finding out if that is true or not, but that's very funny. They run on tracks, yeah. Well, to be honest, German trains are not really that punctual all the time. I have had occasions where I wanted to take the last train home, for example, from Bremen, and it was cancelled completely because it was so late. There were technical problems, and yeah, I know, right? Technical problems in Germany, yes, it happens every now and then, especially when you talk about the German train system. And so what the train company did, actually, they ordered us taxis and drove us home individually free of charge. But that stuff happens, and they're often late, at least 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, but not always on time. It will shock some people, but that is just the reality here in Germany. And so I don't think it's fair to say, or to compare, or to say that, oh, Germany is so much better than Italy. But I mean, maybe in Italy, I don't actually know this, but maybe it is also true that trains are always late, or often late at least. Let me know in the comments below. But from what this person is saying, apparently that's the case. Germans have a serious approach to life and feel comfortable letting go for 2 weeks at a time in a place like Italy. Italians are much more carefree in their daily lives. There is no Italian equivalent to Month's Death in Venice, the story of an uptight and repressed German who goes to Venice to live out his dreams and then dies. Well, I would like to think that is pretty true, actually, because Germans are very focused during their daily lives, and I guess they take work pretty seriously, and especially in a business environment, they try to be very efficient, and so no unnecessary chit-chat. I mean, in some companies more than others, I guess. But all in all, I would say Germans try to be efficient in their jobs, and they try to be serious in their jobs. And Well, probably in Italy too at some companies, but I hear all the time that Italians are much more carefree and relaxed than we Germans are. And yeah, I know of many Germans that do these once a year holidays for 2 weeks, and then they're completely different people from what they usually are the rest of the year. So I would say this point is pretty true. Next up, Germans value conformity and uniformity. All the buildings in the town will have the same color and the same roof tiles. Italians embrace the ramshackle and original. While a German town looks over-preserved, an Italian town always looks like it needs a fresh coat of stucco and some zoning laws. Well, I'm pretty sure that in German towns we actually have laws against just placing a completely different looking building that just does not fit at all in the environment, basically, in the look of the other buildings around it. I'm pretty sure that there's something like that where you have to build uniform looking neighborhoods and stuff like that. Otherwise it looks weird or it stands out too much and stuff like that. I have actually architect friends and they can probably tell me more about this, but I'm pretty sure I heard something like that before. And in Italy, apparently that's not the case. And by the way, for those who are disappointed and say like, oh, he's just guessing, why is he not representing facts? Well, let's look at this video as a before video, right? And then once I visited Italy, I will make another one and tell you what I'm thinking about after being there. This is basically what I'm thinking about stuff before I went there. Maybe at that point I will also have an Italian person sitting next to me talking about these things. How about that? Hey! Hey, hey. Next up, Germans expect children to be well-behaved and under control. Nothing is more German than die Eltern haften für ihre Kinder. Parents are responsible for their children. Yeah, very true. Sign. Italian school children are pampered and beloved. It was not unusual for my son to join groups of children playing outside at 1 a.m. in our small Italian town. Holy crap, 1 a.m.? Oh yeah, no, definitely not something you will see often in German cities in Germany in general. That is very true that we get annoyed easily at children like screaming and crying and making noise, for example, on the train or bus or subway system or restaurants. We expect children to be quiet and behave and get like annoyed if that is not the case. So yeah, that's very true. I guess that's kind of sad as well because, I don't know, shouldn't children grow up with the attitude of, well, the world is great, the world is fun, the world is a great place to do anything, like you can achieve anything you like. And if children are being repressed by their parents at that early age saying like, no, shut up, conform, stay in line, be serious all the time, that's kind of killing the life spirit of a person, isn't it? To an extent, at least. I'm not sure. Of course, rules are important to an extent as well. Like anarchy is not gonna work where people go out murdering each other and stuff like that. So a certain rule set is of course necessary, but is it good to make them into quiet worker bees at an early age? I don't think so. Next up, Germans may grumble about taxes and performing their civic duty, but they do not embrace corruption. Italians spend more energy avoiding taxes and regulations than people in any country north of the Alps. Okay. Germans almost always stop at stop signs. Occasionally, Italians do also. That's actually really funny because, yeah, in Germany we take traffic rules very serious, and rules in general are not necessarily meant to be bent or broken. They're just there to be followed. But then, of course, there are occasions where Germans cross the red light in big cities when no one else is watching, when we feel like no one else is watching, and sometimes even when people are watching, because we know the police isn't watching at least. So yeah, this is not a stereotype that can be upheld necessarily everywhere in Germany, but all in all, I would say that it is pretty true. We Germans are more likely to follow the rules, especially when it comes to taxes, because tax fraud in Germany is probably more harshly punished than murder. So Yeah. Nothing is more German than a banker going to Bayreuth for Wagner. Nothing is more Italian than for a cab driver or gondola pirate to be singing Nessun Dorma while waiting for his next customer. Several Germans like opera. Most Italians embrace opera. I'm not really sure what this means. Does it mean like bankers go to the opera while like Italians live opera and sing whenever possible? And well, I guess I've heard many times that Italians sing in the streets and stuff like that. In Germany, like many people will agree with me here, while some might not. In Germany, that's very uncommon. Even whistling in the streets, people will look at you and be like, what has he got to be so happy about? And we might even, or some might think like, oh, that guy must have a really great day, but I would never do that. No. So it really depends who you ask, I suppose, about these things. But all in all, yeah, in Germany it's very uncommon to especially sing while walking around or waiting somewhere. It's very uncommon. I think that all plays into, well, we like our order and quiet and personal space and all of that kind of stuff. By now the pattern is becoming clear. These are two different versions of Europe. The one drinks wine while the other loves beer, one loves pasta while the other reveres the potato, reverse potato. One is Germanic, the other is romantic. One works to live while the others live to work. Another person answered to this. As it happens, I spent the summer in an area of northern Italy where most of the tourists were regulars from Germany and Austria. I substantially enlarged my understanding on this matter. To be German or Italian were archetypes for hundreds of years. The problem is that Germany has changed a great deal since World War II, and southern Italy hardly at all. What I observed this summer is something I had not imagined, a symbiotic relationship. This is what the beach areas of Italy north of Venice are like. Clean, honest, free bicycles, price controls, free gymnastic classes, sobriety, hard work, public services that work, clean public restrooms. I should have learned from the example of Palma de Mallorca, little blonde kids at the airport giving you forms to fill out on how you liked your stay. This is not Spain. Local surfers who had exactly the same clothing and behavior as those in California. In some previous post years ago, I wrote that Germans run Palma, and if their Spanish parents try to go back, their children would not allow it. In both Palma and northern Italy, the German example has won over, slowly by force of superior behavior, not ideology or even money. Okay. I do not know that southern Spain is a better place for the presence of millions of Brits, but now northern Italy and Palma certainly are better for Germans. I was briefly exposed to southern Italy and had no sense of humor about it. I saw a pickpocket almost killed by vigilantes. Half the restaurants and gas stations were closed. There were no public services. People looked ready. Okay. It is true that southern Italians have more style, are sexier, have better food, have healthier food, are a great deal friendlier, have a wicked sense of humor, live life in more of an operatic style, and are more interesting. If you're a first-time visitor or Catholic or backpacker or like sunshine, all that you understand as Italy is the South. Okay. That person has made very bad experiences with parts of Italy. I apologize. Apparently, I don't know. It's not my opinion because I haven't really been there. But maybe this is true, maybe it's not true. Let me know in the comments below. Italians, north and south, are racist in a sense closer to Japan than to the US. And Germany, they want no part of immigration, legal or otherwise, certainly not from North Africa. Rich Arabs are all over France and Spain and the UK. Their money gets them nada in Italy, which means nothing. Southern Italy is kind of like Donald Trump and his supporters. Everything good is already here and we invented it. They are no good and have bad intentions. They're going to stink up the place. Let's keep them out. Tourists okay, immigrants no. Germany is really closer to the US. Modern, law-abiding, prosperous, adaptable, flexible, pragmatic, scientific admirers of tech and progress. Southern Italians are people of instinct, faith and tradition. Southern Italy has suffered enough volcanic eruptions, wars, invasion, extreme poverty. It is more like an island. Holy crap if that is true. Another person was saying there is such strong stereotypes about both countries, as is the case for all stereotypes. There are a lot of truths in them, but also they lead people to ignore the fact that there's going to be massive variation across the actual population, because culture is not uniform within national borders. Yeah, I agree on that actually. A lot of people will tell you about German rigidity and Italian laxness about anything resembling a rule. And I'm not gonna debate that, but I thought it would be interesting to mention a couple of points where the two countries break this pattern. Germans are supposed to be all about rules and work and rules, but I, for one, have always been impressed by their dedication to enjoy the finer things in life. Good food and wine, nature, the arts. They very adamantly defend and make the most of their national heritage. There's a lot more of those busy bees than meets the eye. That is a very nice description, I suppose. Yeah, and I agree. We are very into enjoying our lives as well, into like being comfortable with each other in a pub or a restaurant or whatever, and having good friends, good conversation, good wine, good beer, good food. All of that is very true. So yeah, I think what this person said is definitely true. We are proud of our heritage, regardless of what the loud, very small minority on the internet likes to think and say. We are proud of our heritage, and we wouldn't let anyone change our way of life, accepting other cultures. And coexisting with other cultures doesn't mean that you personally will change your traditions and your way of life. And I think we Germans are aware of that, most of us at least. And yeah, that's all there is to it, really. Furthermore, the person is saying, and Italians, they are supposed to be nice and easygoing, but when it comes to food, I don't think you'll find anyone more rigid. There are rules on anything you can do surrounding food. From how to prepare it, to how to consume it, what goes with what you're allowed to drink with what time it's appropriate to eat or drink a cappuccino, or what topping you're allowed to have on a pizza. And everyone respects those rules to the letter. If you dare challenge them, you're in for a world of pain and public scorn. It's actually really interesting that that comes up in this, because I recently got a comment from someone complaining, I think it was an Italian person, complaining about how Americans eat, what was it? Some kind of meal with coffee or something like that. It was a certain type of dish that Americans apparently eat and drink coffee at the same time, and that was like a scandal. Yeah, and I mean, I've seen my dad have coffee with cake and maybe eat cold cut on bread at the same time as well. He mixed up foods and stuff like that. And so I don't think it's only the Americans to kind of commit these crimes against good coffee manners. It's also Germans and other people, but that is interesting. I think this might be true. Next up, something else I find interesting is when a few years ago smoking bans started going up across the whole of the EU, I figured that it would never work in Italy, but I was amazed to see that from one day to the other, the country instated a complete ban on smoking in public places that I've never seen anyone break. In Germany, on the other hand, I don't think a full ban has ever been enforced. And when I was there last, there was a very lax attitude to enforcement of this ban, and people were smoking in a bar where they weren't supposed to. Well, to be honest, I don't see that very often, especially now in 2018. I'm not sure when this comment was posted. Might have even been this year, to be honest. But I'm sure there are pubs, public restaurants or whatnot where people don't really care too much about it. Maybe if there's not many guests, the barkeep will say, oh, go ahead, smoke. But there are also high fines that restaurant owners and bar owners and club owners have to pay if they do not enforce these rules. So I would think most of us do follow the rule of the smoking ban, and I, for one, am happy about that, because I don't want to come home with my clothing stinking of smoke every time I go out to a restaurant or something like that. Nah. Another person is saying Italy is some sort of dreamland to Germans in every respect. The first ones to go there were the intellectuals and artists. Germany's greatest poet ever was one of the first ones to come. To pay his bills, he had signed as a secretary of a minor German prince. As soon as the wild years with hunting during daytime and chasing farmers' girls during the nights, Goethe meanwhile wrote poems, were over and the paperwork began, he felt his power as a poet had started to wane. One rain-drizzling night he packed his rucksack, so his backpack, grabbed 2 front-loaded pistols for safety and wrote his prince a note. Then he took the next coach to the south. He wouldn't return until 3 years later, having seen his dreamland, Arcadia. His book about his travels went on top of the bestseller list, and Italy on top of the favorite travel destinations. The Germans sketched, measured and described everything in order to understand. They came back full of the spirit of the South, painted, composed and wrote about Italy, but they couldn't reproduce it. Neither could anyone. For this reason, Germans cross the Alps on an annual basis to enjoy Italy and try to decipher its secrets, the rules behind it, the recipe. And this is the basic difference between Germans and Italians, the belief that everything can be analyzed and reconstructed, even the paradise. It's funny. This is imprinted in every German's mind. Inventions like porcelain, the Volkswagen Beetle and Nutella are byproducts hardly noteworthy for a nation that is on a quest to find the philosopher's stone that keeps them busy. They know that they maybe miss most of their joy in life. But once they have the recipe, they will save mankind from an unhappy and boring life. For this reason, there is one thing that sells better in Germany than Italian food: the rules about how to cook and how to enjoy. Whenever a new Italian chef comes up with an age-old rule about how to put what on pizza and what not, and when never to use cream together with you name it, the Germans start to scribble and film it with their mobile phones before they hide in their laboratory called Germany. And the chef smiles because this idea just came to his mind this morning while he had an argument with his mother-in-law. Then he would order Chinese food and a gallon of Coca-Cola. Oh, how he hates that traditional crab food. Well, I think it's pretty true. There's so many cookbooks in Germany about Italian food, even how to make Italian vegan food. I even have one. So yeah, Germans like these kind of guidelines, these kind of recipes, and like not even just to food, but to life itself. I think that's pretty true. The Germans try to find the recipe to a good life. The Italians just have it. The northern brain-centered way of life versus the southern belly-centered way of life. Wait a moment, I hear you say. To a certain degree you can replace Germany by any country. Aren't we all a little too German in the sense of brain-centered? Do we not all wish we were a little bit more southern? And maybe one of the reasons Germans are not liked very much is the fact that they are the uttermost expression of one of our own traits we dislike. Hey! Unbelievable. One question is left. Why is it that Italians do not search for the philosopher's stone? The only answer is because they have found it already. So it's very interesting. So this person claims that Italians just know how to live a good and relaxed life, and while Germans are still searching for it. It's a good. That is very philosophic, and we could discuss this lengthy, I think, but this video is already really long, so I would rather not do that and leave it up for discussion in the comments. What do you think about that? Mi amici, this was very interesting for me to read through these comments of people, because I can't call them facts, because it's just a very opinionated, opinion of people on the internet. So I shall experience Italy for myself and come back, review this, what I said today, and hopefully find some things that weren't true, that are true. We shall see. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this topic. I would really like to hear it. And maybe even some travel tips for me. What do I need to do and see in Italy? Where should I not go? And how would I, as a German, feel most comfortable? Let me know in the comments below. And apart from that, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to get Germanized. Goodbye and auf Wiedersehen.